Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Living on Lemonade podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lauren. Today, I would like to share some thoughts and reflections on an experience I had recently. And it was something that, well, I try to get curious on most aspects of my life as I navigate my day because it helps me learn and be more present, etc., as I've talked about before. Um, and it's also an extension of other experiences I've had. So it's interesting sometimes when you have an experience and then you kind of like reflect on it, and then it starts to kind of you kind of start to what's the word I want to use? You see it in other experiences you've had, and you kind of find you link the relevance to maybe other areas of life. So today I want to talk a little bit about using discernment when working with some sort of mentor. Now, it can be in all different areas of life. It can be in business if you're working with like a business coach or a business mentor. And even if you're not working with them privately, maybe you're in a group or you're in some sort of container with them, or you're literally just following their content and following what they're teaching or advising or mentoring kind of on, even if it's in a free capacity. This could be at work, kind of shadowing someone, or, someone kind of takes you under their wing in an area of your job or career that you're unfamiliar with. This could be going through therapy to navigate a difficult time. One thing that I have kind of come to know about myself is I I guess I haven't figured out yet if I've always been a leader or if I've been molded into a leader through experiences I've had, and if I wasn't a leader before organically or what, like, naturally. I would say that my 6.5 years as an air cadet, going through the air cadet program, built me into a leader. Or if I was a leader before, which I'm still kind of getting curious about and pondering, um, definitely built those skills or built the foundation and made me more well-rounded as a leader so that I can show up better in life, both professionally, both um, as a friend, as a daughter, as a partner, all of those kind of aspects. And one thing that's been very important in that development is really getting to know, understand, and hone in on the my own craft, my own approach to leadership, my own strengths as a leader. Because simply, if you want to be in a position where you're leading, and it doesn't even have to be others, just leading yourself through life, it's important to have a baseline, like a foundation, and just a good sense of who you are and where you want to go. And knowing your yeses and your nos, this is where the intuition comes in. But when you're being led down a path, especially if you're kind of uh, shadowing someone who has more experience than you, having the ability to still know that their formula for success might not be your formula. And I think this can be it can be sticky sometimes because when we are wanting to learn from someone, it can kind of be a bit vulnerable. Um, and we want to, especially if we're not sure of ourselves, we might just want to emulate what they're doing. And it might not be the key to our success in whatever we're trying to create. So when we do this inner work and we get to know ourselves and our own leadership style and kind of how we approach leading our own life and having our yeses and nos when we come up to decisions that we have to make for ourselves and where we want to go next, we will like our gut will tell us, or there will be a part of our inner self that will we can get to know and build that muscle of like, yes, if it feels like a expansive, like, ooh, yes, this feels like the next thing I want to do because it feels exciting and it's coming from a place of love and abundance. Or if it's like, no, that just doesn't feel right. And what I'll say also to this is there's a difference between saying no out of fear of the expansion, fear of this next chapter, this next level of life, however you want to look at it, and a no from this doesn't resonate with my vision and where I want to go next. There's a little bit of work that we sometimes need to do in order to establish the difference between like a no out of fear, which doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be a no. It just means that we have some perhaps speed bumps that we need to overcome in order to go in that direction. If it feels like a no for now because I'm afraid of it, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a no forever, right? But then there's just the no's of like, ooh, that doesn't feel in alignment with where I want to go. Now, I had an opportunity not long ago to go on a peer support call for some colleagues. I think I've talked about I volunteer in this group and we support our some of our peers. Um, Helping with mental health and all that stuff. And as if you've been following for a bit, you know that's way up my alley. Now, I had an opportunity to do it in person, which was super nerve-wracking for me. It was exciting and very scary because I had never done one in person. Wasn't quite sure what to expect. And I think the kind of the mental hangups for me was like, how do I like structure this conversation? And I was making it very much a strategy. And sometimes we do strategize to uh, make things feel like we have control over them, so then they go in like a linear fashion and it feels safe and comfortable and all of those things. The reality is when you're having a conversation, whether it's casual or you kind of are trying to break barriers in the topics of it or whatever, it never goes the way that you expect it to. Now, I thought the experience was really positive. I can't talk any details about it, but I came away feeling like, oh, that I think that went really well. And I got some great feedback as well because I went with someone who has done these types of interactions before. And I for me, I wanted to kind of shadow a little bit. And what I noticed was interesting and also gave me it gave me I guess, a bit of understanding and it showed me that I have since grown. I have grown sin in the way that I don't always take constructive feedback well, or I do, but there's also like a part of me that totally gets in my head about it after and just kind of like loops in it for a while. Now, I'm still kind of thinking about it a little bit, but with processing it, one, I didn't take the like the feedback was super positive and really it was a small thing, but I knew right away I was like, "Oh man, I would have taken this so much harder like not that long ago." And I really would have made it about myself. But so for one, I noticed that. And then the other thing was I was like, "Okay, I also understood the role that the feedback I was given holds more of the structure of, like, the vision of the way that the person I was kind of shadowing that day does things, but when I got really kinda quiet and curious about it and was really kinda thinking about it, I thought, like, it's not to say that, what I did was, like, wrong. It's not the way that they do it, um, but I also did agree that there were a couple things that I can dial in, and, that's to be expected when you try something new that you've never done before. There's going to be areas of improvement, so I now have the mindful awareness of how I'm going to approach, another in-person interaction and kinda dial in those things, but at the same time, um, I also think that those things are my strengths in how I approach and lead these types of, conversations and interactions. So part of the my own, what's the word? Part of my own understanding and kind of, like, working through it after just individually was to detach from the expectation that I needed to do it in an exact certain way, especially, like, for the person that I was kind of shadowing, and reminding myself that their way's great for them and right in their way. It's not wrong in any way, but mine isn't necessarily either. And being able to kinda detach from that and say, like, "I learned a lot that day. I got some great tips. I got some great feedback." It was interesting to watch them work, to see how they did stuff because I'm like, "Ooh, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm taking that away." So, I gained things. I was made aware of things that I may not have picked out for myself after the experience. So it's like I come into this awareness of like, okay, we'll just be aware of this and then maybe just fine tune it for next time. But yeah, there was a time when I would have just been super discouraged of like, oh, I really messed that up and why did I do it that way? And I did it wrong, and I would have made myself wrong about it. So I it was just a reflection to me to be like, "Hey, I'm doing well. I'm doing well." Just the fact that I didn't take it as hard shows that I have more regulation, shows that I have been embodying giving myself more grace when I'm in a space of learning and development, knowing like I'm not going to get it right the first time. So, hey, maybe I was this or maybe I was that, but those things can also have their advantages when we fine tune them. So how do I dial it in to really refine it to create the experience that feels most authentic and me in my own path of leadership and how I lead because no one has the same path. So when I guess this is all to say that when you're working with someone who is a bit further down the road that like further down the path than you, they have more experience, they've got more time and energy and experience into whatever you want to create. Just remember that no mentor is the be all end all, and they can help teach you as much about yourself as they can teach you about how they do things. If you're open to learning and growing and just having that reflection after, like through and after things, depending on what the context is, and find a mentor that holds that space for you that can say like, here's what I do or here's my experiences and doesn't necessarily give you an equation A plus B equals C, I've learned to I hesitate when there's, like, this, like, very strict formula. Some things, sure, like small things, but when it comes to mindset, like, we all have different experiences, we all have things we need to work through. Um, Having a mentor, because I've had several over the years, having someone who can say, like, "Here's the path I've been on, this is what worked for me, and this is why." And then also holding the space for me to follow my authentic path, and even, like, teaching me skills on how to better know and understand my own intuition so that when something just feels like, that's not for me," I can just identify it and I don't really have to battle or grapple with it long to just know that, like, okay, that works really well for you, that approach or whatever, that strategy or that mindset. But something about it just that's not where I want to go with this. And then, like, okay, well, how do we help each other find what's best for you? Um, I think that's kind of it. I want to talk about that a little bit because I think we can get really caught up on needing to replicate from what we're learning from these people that we look up to and sometimes idolize, and we can lose ourselves in the process. So my big thing today is just stay connected with who you are through your journey, through your journey of life, learning, expansion, however that looks for you, and let the people that you want to learn from who truly align with where you want to go. That's the other big thing. If they've got all the shiny, if they have too many shiny things, for me, that's kind of, I get a little curious about that. And I've started to really get clear on, like, the vision of life that I want to create. And for me, it's from a very grounded, nourished place. So I look for mentors who teach about that, who really embody those same values that I have. There was a time that I just wanted to, like, run for all the carrots, and I was very much in, like, hustle mode and side hustle this, side hustle that. I don't even identify with that word anymore because hustle is not in my vision at all, because I see where it led me and it wasn't somewhere that I want to go again. So it's interesting, and I don't regret that era. I learned a lot from it, but I'm moving forward into a whole different energy of what I want to be, who I want to be, what I want to create, where I want to go. And it's important that the people that we work with are the embodiment, not just talking about these subjects, but actually living into these subjects, these practices that they're teaching us and helping us to move towards in a way that feels in alignment with who we are and where we want to go. So hopefully I've kept this pretty short. I'm gonna finish up here. Um, oh, I pulled a card. If you're watching the video, you can see it. I pulled a card right before because I do my daily card pull, and it's called the Holy Mountain. And this is from the Ancient Stones Oracle by Rebecca Campbell. I love, love, love this deck. I pick a card every day. I'm getting to know the cards and what the symbolism and messages mean for me in particular. So at some point I'll be able to just pull this card and know, like, what it means for me, which is cool. But what really kind of popped out when I was setting the intention for this episode before I started recording is there's sometimes reflection questions at the end. So here's what it says in the book in Rebecca's words. How can you invoke the holy mountain to lead you back to yourself? How can you embrace your own unique path? how are you being called to take the path less trodden? And then the soul inquiry, the reflect another reflective question that I can, I could journal about or just ponder is, what is your soul calling you to do? And I just thought that was very timely with this whole like feeling like I should be following this certain path because someone who has more experience does it this way, but I knew it didn't feel right. And it's just like, how do we integrate their wisdom, um, but not chip away from our own compass as to how we want to navigate things and where we want to go and where we feel pulled to and how we feel pulled to do things along that journey. So I just thought that felt like a validation to just staying true to who I am, taking all the nuggets that I learned and have learned through all of my mentorships in different areas of life. This goes back to, photography mentors. And when I was in the journalism industry and doing weddings and stuff like this, right? The quick example, I don't, again, I go on these side tangents, right? But very quick example that just popped in my mind was, um, a lot of the poses that they liked to do. And I was just like, oh, it's so corny. Like it just felt cringe for me. I would kind of cover them because then like especially if the client wanted them or whatever, I would do it. But I also like created these other beautiful things that felt really would light me up. And so, you cover the bases if that's what they want, because you have to give them what they want. But also like creating things maybe they weren't even aware of, that it's like this is what lights me up, and I'm going to create these beautiful images of you in this way. Um, so finding our own style and kind of just making sure we follow our path and don't get sucked into, well, they know more than me, so I need to do it their way. We can lose ourselves really easily that way. So whatever context it is in, whatever area of life, however influential they are, just take that time to check in with yourself along the way, build that foundation of knowing what your yeses and nos are, what feels good, what doesn't, and just stay the path, and you'll never be disappointed. Coming up September 11th, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Soul Care Hour inside the Living on Lemonade community. The other one is on September 30th at 1 p.m. inside the Living on Lemonade community. Well, it's actually inside Zoom, but you can get the link from the event in the community. If you're not in there and you follow this podcast, come hang out. I'm building it. I'm adding more content and stuff as I nourish my own soul and nervous system, and I create more capacity to be able to show up more and just create more. As you know from previous episodes, if you've been listening, summer is always very busy for me in work. I work a lot of overtime, so it's not a season where I can really give a lot to the extras. Um, it's kind of about survival in some ways. And one thing I will say though is every year I get a little bit better navigating the season. I put more tools to use. I prioritize myself in different ways. So perhaps one day it'll feel seamless and I'll still have I will create capacity for more. But right now I'm just kind of going with the flow, taking what I learned from the past year and implementing new things to help support me in the next one. And then fall, winter, spring are kind of my seasons to create in bigger ways in different areas of life outside of work and just the, family and stuff. So um the monthly class will be on September 19th. It's going to be on water. I'm going to chat about water, the importance of water in our health, and also kind of I'll put a bit of there's another aspect of water that I'm excited to talk about based on a book that I've been enjoying. And so stay tuned for that. That will be live inside the Living on Lemonade group at 8 p.m. on the 19th. And then it'll be a podcast after that. Also in the works, I've had this vision. I'm going to declare it out loud because it's going to happen. I've been wanting to create a podcast kind of a series inside the podcast and start to interview more people and have more conversations so you're not just listening to me all the time, even though I hope there's some nuggets when I'm babbling on about my own epiphanies. Anyway, I have this vision to create a series and talk to some people about soul-led, what's the word I want to use? Like soul-led creations, people who have, it could be like a hobby, it could be a business they've created, soul-led ventures, I guess you could say. And that's, it's still, I've talked to a couple people, it's in the works, it's floating up here, but it's coming down, and I'm shortly I will start to be bringing it to life. So stay tuned for that. Future episodes, once I get them recorded, we'll start to have some more conversations and bring some inspiration here. Also, just talk about real life and how those sometimes difficult experiences end up being the catalyst for these like really beautiful soul pulls that we are kind of thrust into and create these beautiful things inside our lives. So I'm excited for that. Stay tuned. Yeah, come hang out, talk to me on social, say hi if we've never met. I'd love to meet you, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye everyone.